Hello and welcome to the Spiritual Solopreneur podcast. If this content resonates with you, please like and subscribe. Today, my guest is Alexa Sasha Marshall. Alexa is a results coach, educator, speaker, and poet with a deep passion for helping high achieving women break free from toxic relationships and reclaim their personal power. After spending over 2 years working with Tony Robbins, Alexa is now launching From Survivor to Sovereignty, Queens Reclaiming Their Power After Narcissistic Abuse. She has a multitude of healing modalities in her toolbox, including sound and energy healing, to help support emotional and spiritual transformation. If you know someone who's thriving on paper but feeling stuck, or a woman ready to rise after a toxic relationship, you are in the right place. Hi, Sasha. Alexa. Almost called you by your last name.
Thank you so much for that intro, Kev. I love it. I love your voice. It's just so smooth.
Oh, thank you. Um, Alexa, you have a very interesting background. 2 years with Tony Robbins, that's a fair chunk of time. I'm sure that was pretty dynamic, to say the least. Did that help you get on the track of spiritual coaching and your
Oh,
calling?
definitely, it did. It taught me a lot of the deeper core issues that people have and the way that they present themselves in just common situations. So somebody may say they have trouble with sales. Somebody may say that they're struggling with procrastination on writing their book. But behind all of that tends to be a wound of worthiness. Am I enough? And so there are, of course, practical cognitive tools to use with those people, but there's also a spiritual side that when I tapped in with a lot of my clients on through questioning, it really helped them transcend those issues.
Awesome. It always boils down to something else, doesn't it? The symptoms are just the surface things and until you start digging a little bit. Now, you work specifically with women who have suffered narcissistic abuse. So how do I know if I'm a victim of narcissistic abuse? What are the symptoms of the people who come to you for help?
That's a really good question. So often the symptoms are invisible, and a lot of people experience it somatically, and then it's even hard for them to describe what they are going through. So it can be that feeling of exhaustion, of doubting yourself, doubting your own reality due to the gaslighting that you're experiencing from that other person, the narcissist. It could look like low self esteem. It could even manifest itself into physical symptoms due to stress. So, PCOS, IBS, migraines. These are the types of ways to know whether the relationship that you have with somebody else is toxic and is draining you.
Right.
But I also have a quiz, and it's called Has Narcissism Hijacked Your Life? And it's a free quiz, and it looks at 7 different areas of your life and gives you a diagnostic of how and how you've been impacted by narcissism, and then also what you can do about it as well.
Oh, that's awesome. That makes it easy. Um, do you work with people who are in the throes of the relationship or just the ones that have gotten out of it or anything in between?
Really good question. So with my one-on-one coaching, I have worked with people and continue to work with people that are in the thick of it, and they're maneuvering their way out and still understanding what exactly is that dynamic that's going on there, because a lot of people have children with narcissists, and that can make it very complicated when you're trying to figure out how to manage that relationship, and not hopefully diminish the impact that that has on the children, what they're seeing. And when it comes to the mastery circle that I'm creating that launches on August 9th, that is more so for women that have made their way out and are in their own safe space and are fully committed to healing. It's very hard to heal from a situation that you're still entangled in.
Sure. Um, yeah, and it's hard to get out of these things, apart from just logistical things like having the kids and whatever, just emotionally, somehow we get attached, and it's a very difficult cord to cut, is it not?
Yes, and that's interesting too. That cord, because that's one of the ways to think about it. These narcissists have energetic cords attached to us, and based off of the limiting beliefs that we may have all the way from our upbringing, it causes us to stay within the dynamic and suffer and create a whole loop. So cords is really important to think of because they'll just keep on dragging you along until you figure out, hey, no, no more of this. I'm going to cut you off and I'm going to regain back my power and my sovereignty.
Exactly. So, what's the strategy? You mentioned limiting beliefs from years past. Is that part of it? Part of it, and what tools are you using for that? As far as trauma release or uh, releasing limiting beliefs, that type of thing.
Definitely. That's a really good question. And it's what makes me really passionate about my mastery circle because there's nothing like it out here. And that's why I'm creating it. It's something that I wish I had when I had first gone through my healing journey. And I started off my healing journey through talk therapy. I didn't even know what I was going in for. I was in college and I wanted to be a clinical psychologist. And one of the first classes ever, the professor was like, well, if you want to be a therapist, you want to be a psychologist, you have to be in therapy yourself. Like, okay, that makes sense to me. I'm going to go and I booked my session, and then we started to talk about why I overworked myself. I was working 40 hours in while taking 6 classes and studying for the GREs and all of the background. And it started to become very apparent the lack of care that I received from both of my parents. And just to give a short understanding, my parents got divorced when I was 5. And I had very little interactions with my father, but the ones that I did have with him were pretty shaping. We'll probably get into them later on in this podcast, but also, my mom, she was always somebody that needed help.
Mm.
I didn't know in therapy, and especially not growing up, that there are 4 different types of narcissists. It's not just the grandiose narcissist that, maybe some people are like, Trump is a narcissist because look, he's like on Twitter talking about himself and all of this, especially with Elon Musk now going on. Like,
Yeah, it's very active.
there's also a vulnerable narcissist.
Mhm.
And what a vulnerable narcissist is somebody that is pretty much constantly in the victim role, but for a certain person, they require admiration from them and they require parenting from them. And I didn't know that I was a parentified child. I was somebody that had was trained to step up and overperform in order to meet the needs of my mom.
You had to.
So
There was no
I had to
choice.
no choice at all, and no knowledge that I was even making the choice at the time. And as I became aware of that, I got more and more depressed. And if you could imagine somebody with all of these different things going on, working, school, studying, I didn't know how to manage it. And that's why I created my mastery circle, because I wish I had found a space like this at this point. We often try to address trauma through speaking, but trauma is actually stored within our bodies. It affects our nervous system, and there's a specific nerve called the vagus nerve. It runs all the way from our head through our face, all the way to our stomach. And when that becomes dysregulated, we feel anxious. We could get that stuck. We're essentially caught in survival mode. And all the decisions that we make when we're in that mode are just, they're just out of that space of I'm not enough and I'm not safe and I need to feel it. So that is what leads to the people pleasing. That's what leads to codependency, finding a relationship that is exactly like the one that you grew up in with your mom, but now it's your friend or it's your boss, and you're like, how does this keep on following me? I'm not a bad
That's
person.
that's a good
Oh,
point. How does it?
how does it? That's how it does, because you're literally wired to enter those situations again due to the dysregulation that is within your own body.
That's a physical thing, that dysregulation of the vagus nerve.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. And that's why, as part of my mastery circle, I am inviting different healing practitioners. One of them is a somatic therapist, and she knows so much about how to release trauma from the body, from the vagus nerve, and calm the body down. We start with the body and understanding what the trauma is, and then we transition into rebuilding your life from
Mhm.
a place of peace. But a lot of times we've kind of been taught to start with the mind first.
Yeah,
And so that causes like the intellectualization of the trauma. You read all the books, you know, the four different types of narcissists, you know what the DSM-5 says about it. You just know all the things, but then you don't know why I still feel so horrible. Why am I still waking up tired? So
yeah.
that's that's a little snippet of my mastery
That's
circle.
that's awesome. I mean, yeah, the idea of approaching the body first, and that must be so relieving for people because that's where they feel it. They don't feel it in their brain. They feel it in their, you feel it in your body. So if you can address that first thing, then that's going to calm the person down and they're going to immediately feel a little better. Then start to address to make sure that it doesn't come back.
Exactly. Exactly. I
Yeah.
couldn't have said that better.
Okay. I'm just saying what I'm hearing you say. So how does the sound come into it, the sound therapy?
This is fun. Sound is so fun because I'm a very musical person, and a lot of us are. It's something within the human psyche that makes us very attuned to music. And the reason behind that is because music is pure frequency and vibration and energy. And that's what we are. We are bioenergetic beings. And so sound frequency can really help a person's nervous system become regulated. There are certain tones and even things like Tibetan singing bowls and tuning forks. This is another a really big one, tuning forks. Um, because I just saw it yesterday. I'll share it with you if I can find it. But a baby was crying, and the mom was just like, "Nah, I can't. I can't do it with this baby anymore." So she pulled out this bowl with this little bong thing, and she dinged it, and the baby just stopped.
Okay.
And that's because it soothed the baby. So sound has a very profound effect on us. And for some people, you know, sound frequency may not impact them as much as another thing, let's say EFT tapping or therapeutic humming, for example. That's another one. So that's why my mastery circle has a lot of different healing modalities so that you could really assess which one helps me the most.
Oh, that's a great idea. So people can figure out what they really resonate with.
Yes,
S-
definitely. That's a
Um,
big word, resonate.
yeah.
When we are listening to a sound, it brings our brain waves into resonancy with it.
Oh,
And that's a process called entrainment.
okay. What about the chanting? Why is it it's just the same principle? I mean, I've listened to chanting. I've listened to on YouTube some of the frequencies and stuff like that. So it is it do I have to listen to it for a period of time or maybe the sound's just not for me. I don't know.
Hmm. Well, one of the great ways to know is how do you feel? How do you feel when you listen to either the chanting or the sounds? What would you say?
It depends. I've had some actual sound therapy that I felt went straight to the place in my body where it needed to go. And then other times I just found it discordant. I just have
Mm-hmm.
found some of the stuff discordant. So just
Mm-hmm.
depends what it is, I guess.
Yeah, yes, absolutely. For the ones that really resonated with you, were they more like in person sound bowls, things like that?
In person, yeah. Like
That's
voice, somebody's voice.
ah, that's one of the modalities that I'm inviting into the mastery circle is um, vocal toning.
Mm,
She's a practitioner of toning, and it's very powerful. So when you're talking about chanting, chanting is a form of that as well, where you're using the own vibrations of your voice in order to heal your nervous system. Because remember that vagus nerve, it passes right here too, through your neck, all from your brain, your neck, all the way down to your stomach. So you could really feel it in your core.
yeah,
Yeah, based off of what you are chanting and how it
int
resonates.
that's so interesting. Um, we talked a little bit before, and you mentioned Bob Monroe and the Monroe Institute. Was that a big influence on you, and what is it all about?
It was a huge influence on me. Um, this, besides hot yoga, which is what I started to do as soon as I moved out from my mom's place, um, the gateway meditations, which Bob Monroe created, had a huge impact on helping me to feel better, helping to reduce the symptoms of anxiety that I was having. I At that point, I didn't even know what meditation was, but I knew sitting by myself in the corner with my legs crossed was not going to do it. My mind was just all over the place. Like all I and still to this day, all over the place. But he has these audio tapes where you have to wear headphones because one side of the headphones will play a different tone than the other side of the headphones. And the reason why that is because our brain picks up the difference. So when it picks up the difference, let's say it's 4 hertz, that corresponds to a specific brain frequency that is positive for us. And the ones that are the best for us are theta and alpha. Those tend to be the realms that we go into when we sleep, and that's what helps us to wake up restored. However, when people have gone through trauma, it's very difficult for us to enter those states because our brain is so dysregulated. The neurons are firing so much. The amygdala, which is the fear part of the brain, is alerting that something is wrong, even though nothing may be wrong in the moment, but it just keeps on firing. The prefrontal cortex of our brain, that's really responsible for decision making, and that could tell the body, like, hey, you're safe now. He's gone or she's gone. Like that part of the brain completely shuts off. So the frequencies in his meditations really helped me because they were able to train my brain state back to a space of peace.
Interesting. This is very scientific, though, the way
I
this
think
is all working.
that's what people don't know. Like people think that the spiritual stuff is all woo woo, and I'm not a woo woo person. Like when I was in high school, I thought I wanted to be a doctor because I was taking like AP Bio and AP Chemistry. I don't like when people say these woo woo types of things and it's all fluffy. It's like, no, where are the facts? And actually, his Bob Monroe's, rest in peace to him, his meditations were actually studied by the CIA. And there's a full report that was done on it in 1984 because at the time there was the war and the Cold War, and they wanted to know how are these meditations impacting human consciousness, like Bob Monroe said. And what they found was
Why? Why do they want to know that?
because they wanted to spy.
Basically, that's what I figured. Okay, go ahead.
You know how our government is.
They're nosy.
Very nosy, right? And so they used it. They used it for a decade and a half. And then all of a sudden in the mid 90s, they were like, actually, the results are inconclusive. This doesn't work. And they cut it off.
Hmm.
But
Well,
there's a report. There's a report that talks about all the details of it, and it still holds accurate. It's a real scientific report about the effects that it has on the brain.
interesting. I know that they used a lot of remote viewing as well. That I think there was a time period where it was all very cool or something, and the government got interested in all these things and then kind of left them by the wayside after a certain point.
Yes, yes. And that's so interesting. Like, I almost wish I lived back in that time because it seemed like we were really on the edge of cracking something in terms of what human consciousness is. And I don't know if maybe the government continued that silently or they're just like, oh, we can't go there. And they discontinued it totally.
It was too woo-woo. It was too woo. So let me ask you about your coaching. You mentioned the mastery group is like a mastermind type of group. What else do you do? One-on-one sessions at all? Or
Yes, I do one-on-one sessions. I have a program called one-on-one coaching program called Manifest Destiny. And that's all about connecting people back with who they know that they are meant to be, in spite of the fact that this world is very busy and we're playing many roles and sometimes we get lost. But it's about connecting us back in a very realistic way so that we can think retroactively about, well, if I want to end up with the end of my life saying that I did this, this, and this, and this, that I left this legacy, how am I going to plan my year out, my month out, my week out, my day out, so that I don't lose track of that vision? If I said I wanted to be an author and I'm all the way working in finance, then it feels, you can start feeling like I'm never going to be that. But that's not
Mhm.
true. And it doesn't matter what age you are, it's just not true. You can achieve what you want to achieve in your life. You just need a system. And that's what I'm here for.
Right. Now, do you believe that these achievements and callings and whatnot are preordained um, before, before we come down here and jump into our suits and stuff?
Body suits.
Yeah.
I do. I do. I do think that there's I really do. I believe that there's a even a reason why we come to this planet as spiritual beings. And part of that reason is to fulfill certain things that we agreed upon. And we can feel when we're off track, like when we're not in alignment with it. And so many of so much of the world around us, whether it's the parenting that we received or the education system, it takes us away from what we knew that we wanted to be, who we knew that we wanted to be, unless we're very intentional about putting ourselves back on track every single day, every single week, every single. So that's part of the manifestation word. I'm not very much a
Law of attraction type.
law of attraction type of person. Exactly. I couldn't even think of the name. I'm not the person that's like opening the secret and says, well, you got to write down 3 times in the morning, 6 times at night, 9 times. No, 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 no. Systems. We build systems
System.
here, but we also reconnect you to your intuition, who you were before you started to fear judgment, whether it's from the people around you or even judgment from yourself because you thought maybe I might fail at this.
That
Happen.
starts pretty early on,
Yeah, it does. It does. And
usually.
the fear of not being enough, not being safe, being unworthy, those are all innate core human wounds that live within us that get triggered by it could be the kid at the playground that doesn't want to play with you, or it could be the parent that literally is telling you, no, you can't be an artist. Are you kidding me?
Well, maybe all these obstacles are there for the purpose of us surpassing them.
I think so. I think so too. I really believe that.
But
Even
it's hard to do it on your own, though.
it is hard to do it on your own. It's a lot of the traumas that we actually have are relational traumas that we developed in relationships with other people. And so that's why true authentic healing is done through having a healthy connection with another person, whether it be a therapist or a coach or a loving partner. One of the things that we learn in psychology is that we have different attachment styles, and there's secure attachment, there's avoidant attachment, there's ambivalent attachment. The best way to become somebody that is securely attached is to have a relationship with another person that's securely attached so that you could heal and you can learn the skills with them through love.
Exactly.
Yeah. That's
Well,
that's
I think you have the exact right combination of spiritual and scientific theory behind you.
you.
So I need to ask you about your poetry.
Oh, yes. Oh my goodness. Oh man. Well, what do you want to know?
What?
What do you want to know?
Well, are you published? What kind of poetry do you write? What do you use your poetry for therapeutic purposes or use it in your coaching at all?
That's such a great question. I started off writing poems like in the back of classrooms. I would always finish my work early and just be there writing poems. And so I would write more than 3 poems a day, and I have binders of the poetry that I wrote as a kid. And when I look back on them, I didn't know I was journaling or doing therapy for myself. I didn't know that that's what I was doing, but they were me releasing the frustrations that I was having and almost like writing myself into being better. And I always thought that there was something extremely beautiful about words that rhyme. Like sentences that rhyme just feel like they go in a circle, they flow so well. Our brain receives them better than other types of writing. Um, one of the one of the things that kept me writing poetry was hearing Maya Angelou actually perform her poetry, the poem Still I Rise, which I think is an anthem for any person, but especially for women that have gone through narcissistic abuse, to hear that even the intro words of "you may write me down in history with your bitter, twisted lies. You may trod me in the very dirt, but still, like dust, I rise." It sends tingles.
Powerful,
Yeah,
to
like
say the
literally.
least. Yeah.
So I still write. I attend a free um, poetry class, but I also am creating my own poetry class to help women heal from narcissistic abuse through their writing. And that's called From Ink to Evolution. So that's something that I'm excited to launch in July.
Beautiful. I love what you said there, writing myself into feeling better. That's, that sums it up. That's perfect.
You write
Oh,
poetry?
yes, like you, when I was younger, when I was in school, I would spend my time too, in the class when I'm supposed to be paying attention to what's going on. I was either doodling geometric shapes or writing something. I did used to write quite a bit of poetry, not so much anymore. Not that I wouldn't like to. I just don't for whatever reason. But yeah, I think I need to take your class,
Yeah. Yes,
get
yes.
back into it.
Yeah, we get so busy and like we don't fan the flames of our creativity. So I'm all about creating those safe spaces where people come back to that stuff that actually made us feel really good when we were kids. And it's not about monetize, like we kind of focus on the things that pertain to money or just our basic needs, cooking and things like that. But
Yeah.
the things that actually just made us feel good about living.
Yeah. And that are creative. You're creating something unique with a
Yeah.
poem.
Yeah.
What message would you like to leave the audience with today?
Wow. I can't believe we have to close
I think we've already had some. Just pick one.
it. Yeah. Well, my message is if you feel like you're broken, you're not broken. You were just adapting to familial situations, adapting to the external world that you were in. And now you have the choice, you have the power, even if it's to say no in your own mind and to try to figure out the way to regain yourself. But you don't have to be alone in that process. There are many people out in the world who are willing to support you, and I'm one of them. So I would love to welcome you into any space that feels right for you, whether it's a poetry group or one-on-one coaching or a mastery circle of other women who may be going through exactly what you're going through. But the biggest lesson or the biggest message that I want to leave is just you are worthy. You are worthy of having the life that you want and that you wish to have. And go after that no matter what and no matter who is in your way.
Exactly. Beautiful. That is a beautiful message. Thank you so much. And Alexa, how can people get in touch with you?
Oh, you can email me at Alexa Sasha 369 at gmail.com.
Okay. We will put that in the description box for you too. And I want to thank you so much for being here. This has been an awesome conversation. Really enjoyed it and very informative. Thank you so much for coming.
Hey, thank you so much, Bev. You are awesome.
Okay. We'll talk again soon. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.